The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to July's Guild back-to-back. So we're going to talk about some big picture stuff with Ben Wolf. We're going to talk about fractional leadership, which is going to be pretty exciting stuff, I believe. And then after that, we're going to talk about some of the things you're doing with Elise Bowie, which sounds pretty amazing. Before we get to that, Ben, tell us about you and your companies.
Sure. Well, again, Ben Wolf, founder of Fractional Leadership. So we are essentially an association, the first one for fractional leaders, which is a term for fractional executives, which basically means somebody that is an experienced executive sitting on your leadership team or on your organizational chart with a lot of experience, building a firm like yours before and or a business like yours before, not necessarily a law firm. And doing so previously would cost you too much more than maybe some companies can afford or is not, beyond the scope of what they need at that point. They need an experienced executive in marketing, sales, operations, finance, technology. And they can, come in and do that on a fractional basis when you can't afford somebody like that full time, but you really need someone with that experience in order to be able to scale the firm.
Ben, and I know that's what we're talking about is scaling, because you have some of our favorite books that we talk about in our group on the wall: Rocket Fuel, Traction, Who Not How, and then there's one behind your head. I can't see which one that is. No,
that's actually my book, Fractional Leadership, Landing Executive You Thought Was Out of Reach, which is surprisingly, because I didn't realize this when I started writing it, the first book on this entire industry of fractional executive leadership. There actually wasn't one before that, which came as a shock to me. So that came out last October.
I think a lot of people have heard sort of a fractional CFO, but talk to us about, as a law firm that's grown a lot over the last 2 years and we're sort of hitting a ceiling, I can see the real need for, I was a arts and science history major. I can see where a fractional whatever can help fill gaps for people. What's the right mindset that people should be thinking about when they're asking themselves, do I need extra help, and how do I do that? How does a fractional that or a fractional who help me achieve that?
Right. Well, I like that you tied it into the who, not how concept, which is quite appropriate. How do you tell when it's the right time? I would say that the trigger for this, like many other things, is that you're hitting a ceiling, that you feel like, let's say you're trying to market your firm, you're trying to get the word out there, and then you as the head of the firm or as one of the partners just finds yourself having to watch YouTube videos, figure out marketing, learn everything yourself from scratch. Or maybe you've been bringing on, just to use that marketing example, you could say this for finance or any of the other fields, but you're trying to market yourself, or you're using an outside marketing agency, but you're just kind of realizing they're not really getting it. They're not really getting the messaging. Then you have to kind of babysit and micromanage the messaging and the social media and all these things and the blog posts. And it's just so much work, right? And the whole reason why you're bringing on that marketing agency is so that you could focus on what you like doing best. Whether it's business development with clients or client service, whether it's public speaking, big relationships, or just managing the law piece of it. Whatever your favorite piece is. whatever you're the who for, right? Where you know how to do it the best and you love doing it or great at whatever it is. And you keep getting pulled into this other area. And it's just the two parts of yourself are fighting. You're hitting the ceiling. You can't grow the firm without doing better, let's say in marketing, but whether it's with an agency, whether it's with you having to figure out stuff yourself, it's just not worth it anymore. You can't. It doesn't make sense anymore. You need someone who's actually not just an intern or a junior person that has to figure it out themselves also. You need someone that's actually built a business before or built multiple businesses before, product launches, marketing campaigns, whatever it is. But they could go all the way from the strategic to managing a team, whether that's an internal team, if you have some marketing staff internally, or whether it's an external team, you're using an agency, freelancers or some other sort of outsourced resource. Bringing on somebody who's built a marketing organization before, who's run a marketing organization at a company your size or bigger before as a CMO, that's kind of what you need. So you're hitting the ceiling. So bring a who on instead of having to figure out the how, who can manage all of those external or internal resources and help you figure out the strategy. So you can just take it off your head, take that weight off and actually focus on stuff you enjoy doing and are much better at.
Had problems getting off mute. So Ben, we are in a position now where we are deciding, okay, do we go out and we search for executives? Do we try to hire from within and then get the training necessary for them to fill some of those executive roles? And I wonder, with your company, Fractional Leadership, which for everybody that wants to know, it's fractionalleadership.io. So if you want to find the website and reach out to Ben, that's the website, the domain. But what does your company do? Do you connect the dots, connect the people? Do you do the training? Do you do both? What is it that Fractional Leadership does?
So Fractional Leadership, and I appreciate you sharing the URL, has two sides to it. So one side is that it is kind of the preeminent association for the fractional leaders themselves. So people that want to provide some sort of C-suite, C-level service to clients, multiple clients at a time on a fractional basis for each one. We provide connection, peer advisory groups, professional development, and a bunch of other resources for members of that community to connect with each other and to get better and to continue getting better over time. On the business owner side, we provide a lot of education. So if you go to the website, you can certainly get on the newsletter, get on the blog. We have blog posts, podcasts, social media, plus the book, Fractional Leadership, Landing Executive Talent You Thought Was Out of Reach, which is on Amazon and Audible, paper, hardcover, Kindle, whatever. So you could learn about, what is fractional leadership? How do you figure out, is it for you? Is it not for you? Just a little bit more in depth than we can on this quick conversation. You can learn about it there. The target market of that book is business owners. So that's one thing you can get as education to find out, hey, what is this? Go a little bit more in depth, how to test if it's for you or not, and then guidelines on how to find the right fractional leader if that solution is right for you. And we do also offer a vetted referral service. So we have a number of our members of Fractional Leadership that we've checked their references. We've had conversations about core values. We've vetted them so that we can feel confident that we're making an introduction that is going to be worthwhile. And then go to the fractionalleadership.io, click on the business owners piece. There's a little button there. You could request a vetted referral. And, you basically go to that page. You could set up a 15-minute conversation with somebody to explain about your situation, your firm, what you're looking for. And then we kind of work behind the scenes to figure out the best match or matches for you. And then we'll send you 3 or up to 3 vetted referrals within 3 business days, essentially. Try to make the process just easier because otherwise it's a very manual process. Again, we talked about who, not how. You end up having to kiss tons of frogs, go on Google, meet 15 different people. A lot of them are just not even in the ballpark of what you're looking for, or you can't afford them or whatever. They just don't have the right industry experience. So we just try to help you skip all that with these vetted referrals.
Who's your avatar client? Who are the best kind of firms or business owners for you and your team to work with?
So from the business owner side, as opposed to the fractional leaders, I would say it's businesses or firms with typically between 5 and 250 people. I know it's a wide range, but it's not necessarily going to be such a great solution if you're just a solopreneur at this point, or if you just have maybe, one associate and one paralegal, or just kind of a very, very small thing. It's usually good to have some sort of leadership team with you. So it's in total organizations of around 5 to 250 people. really could be anywhere. I mean, there's some clients that are doing it around the 750,000 to 1 million range on the lower end to, obviously 50 or 100 million on the higher end. And it's interesting that I will say in general, law firms have an interesting challenge when it comes to bringing in outside management, which is that some firms have a lot of stakeholders, any of whom could basically veto any decision they want because they're the rainmakers and they're the partners. If you have some firms that are either very united, very much able to, I guess, have certain people that are humble, or, they kind of like all agree on whoever's going to be some central leadership, and everyone's going to kind of go with that, whatever's decided along their process. But if you have firms where you have, 5, 10, 15 partners, a bunch of rainmakers, and kind of any one of them can kind of veto anything that they don't like or just not go along with it, you're going to have a hard time executing any kind of management in whatever part of the firm it is. Any kind of initiatives, you're going to have a hard time migrating those throughout an organization if, you have a lot of people with, I don't know if I should say fiefdoms, I don't want to use derogatory terminology, but where that doesn't become possible. If you have like one central partner and maybe a bunch of associates or non-equity partners, or or a small group of partners that are just very much able to get on the same page, it could work. But when you get too big or with too many big stakeholders and rainmakers, it gets kind of hard to initiate major change in any part of the organization because of the number of vetoes that you have.
So I'll ask you one more question, then Jim will ask you one more question, then we'll talk about what you're doing with Elise, because you're doing some really cool things with Elise. But I should ask this as a follow-up to the last thing you said. I want to know, like, how do you vet these executives? Because I'm sure a lot of them have a lot of talent, and a lot of them probably think they have a lot of talent and they don't. So how do you cut through all that to figure out who's qualified, who's not to be in these fractional roles?
And it's a great question. And we go into it with a level of humility, right? Because I'm not a marketing expert. I can't judge a CMO, or I'm not a finance expert. I can't judge a CFO in terms of the quality of what they do as a CFO. So we try to keep it simple and recognize our place and what we could be experts in and what we can't be experts in. We just try to keep it simple. We have certain core values that we feel all of us need to share in order to serve each other well and serve the clients that we all serve well. So we have serious behavior, like you are interviewing people, you have behavior-based questions. So we have behavior-based kind of conversations with all new members that relate to our core values to ensure that everybody's going to be a core values fit with the community. And then the other thing for the ones that we refer out is, again, we can't be experts in finance or marketing or technology, but what we could do is we could talk to 3 of their actual clients who they have served on a fractional C-level basis. And so for any of those referrals that we make, we have actually independently spoken to and gotten an independent reference from 3 of the clients that they've actually served before. So again, obviously they might have others out there that hate them. I guess it's theoretically possible, but if they got 3 that, that really like them and give them a great reference and they've actually served in this type of capacity, I mean, we're not really going to look into it deeper than that. Obviously there's no guarantees, but that's what we do to do our best.
Ben, could you give an example, just so people can get their mind around it? What's a good success story of where somebody working with a fractional leader has really paid off?
That's a great question. Stories are always so much more helpful than just general principles. I'll give an example just because I have it more ready at hand than, even though it's not in the area of law, but I'll just give an example from a marketing agency, that I know about. This is with a fractional COO, where it was a marketing agency. I think they had about 6 or 8 people on board, and they were, maybe a little over $1 million in revenue. But just the owner of this firm was just in everything. I mean, they were in every sales process, closing every deal, involved in every client delivery, right? Every project. They were involved in that. They're involved in the finance. They're involved in the bookkeeping. They're just like in everything. So they had some helpers. So some other people were getting stuff done, but they were still in everything. They just realized that he was hitting the ceiling and he was not able to grow his firm anymore. He couldn't scale because he was in everything and there's only so much of him, and he was super stressed out. So he brought on a woman named Leah Leaves, great fractional COO I know, who specializes in working with marketing agencies. And she she kind of came in. She's built marketing agencies before. So again, she's a COO. She comes in, she's done this before. It's not her first rodeo. She knows what it takes to do it successfully. So she set up professional development programs for the team members, metrics, processes that they could follow so that not everything had to come back to the owner of the firm. And again, I know it's a marketing firm, but I'm sure a lot of us owners of small firms have the same thing. They sell all the clients, they get all the engagements, they're involved in all the client service, and they get some help with paralegals, maybe associates, maybe some other staff, but I'm sure they experience some of the similar pain points. And so Leah was able to come in, set up processes, set up professional development so that people could feel like they had a growth path within the organization, set up processes and electronic systems to manage workflow better so they weren't so manual as they were before and weren't so just everything in their head as they were before. And it was able to set it up that they were able to grow. And I think over about 9-month period, she got them to actually 18 team members, so tripled their size. I believe doubled or tripled their revenue to, I forgot if it was in the 2 or 3 million range within less than a year, and actually kept their profit margin the same as it was when they were smaller. Because usually when you're smaller, obviously you're going crazy and stressed out, but you could have a higher profit margin because you're the main talent, right? Doing everything, and you're not paying people because there's fewer people around. But they were able to keep the work that they did efficient in the way that they scaled, because again, she's just done it before. And that's all it looks like, is having somebody who's done what you need done before. So you're paying a lot less than you would for a fractional than you would for someone like that full time. Because we're not talking about somebody that's, a $70,000, $80,000 a year person. We're talking about an experienced executive, somebody that's built a firm or a company like yours or a similar size before, perhaps at $200,000, $300,000 a year or more, plus benefits and taxes and everything and Social Security that you're paying, and is able to do that for a lot less than that on a fractional basis. It might be more than you'd hire for an underexperienced person, less than what you need. It could be the same or even slightly more than that, just maybe the same as that, but you're getting them on a fractional basis because they've done this before. They could do a lot more than someone who doesn't know what they're doing. I hope that answers the question, but that's, yeah.
It totally did. That was a great answer and just what I was looking for. Did you want to ask Ben about what he's working on with Elise?
Yeah, let's hear it, Ben. I'm excited. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's hear about what you're doing. I'm excited about this.
Well, I don't know. You guys could tell me how familiar your audience is with EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So, that's a operating system or kind of a set of management tools that small and mid-sized businesses could use. So I have a company, Wolf's Edge Consulting, which is a firm of fractional integrators or part-time integrators, meaning COOs, for companies running on EOS, who use the EOS management framework. So Elise Bowie, I don't know if she's listening to or watching this or if she will afterwards, but she's definitely one of our amazing clients, very, very growth oriented and always looking to learn how to do things better, and caring about her team, caring about her clients, and caring about getting better all the time. So she had reached out to me, and we ended up having one of our great team members. We have 12 fractional integrators or 12 COOs on my team at Wolf's Edge, all working just with companies running on EOS and providing COOs to them on a fractional basis. So one of our amazing team members, who also happens to be our internal head of sales, Jen Hamilton, is the fractional integrator at Elise's firm. And so she's amazing. And that's, it's basically what we're doing with her. So we're coming in and helping with their EOS process, helping manage the leadership team and be a resource to the leadership team and through them kind of rolling out and migrating the good management and effective and results-based management of EOS from the leadership team, and really migrate that down to the extent they weren't already doing so throughout their organization. Obviously the manager level, at the frontline attorney level, the staff level. I got
a follow up to that, Jim, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, bud.
To me, like fractional, it seems like temporary. You know what I mean? And maybe it's supposed to be. But are there opportunities though for those individuals that are the fractional leaders to come on full time with those companies and actually be members of the firm, that they're no longer, they basically strip away that fractional level, or that fractional title, and they become, COO.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a fair question. Most of the time, no, just because the people who are going to be really good at being a fractional leader or a fractional COO are because they want to do that. Like that's what they love doing. They love doing it for multiple clients. They love the variety. They love the fact that you can make more money than you can at a full-time job. They like the variety. They like the constant challenge, because at some point, and part of that fun of being a fractional leader is that you get an organization. There's a lot of transformational change. And then when you get them to a good place, then you could transition them over to a full-time solution. You help them hire that full-time integrator or that full-time COO, or you help them elevate someone from internally. You help mentor and coach somebody from internally who could rise into that integrator or that COO role, and then step out of transition them into that role and then step out of the way. Let them grow into that role full-time. Because if you were there long-term or if you were there full-time, what happens is that you kind of make whatever transformational change is practical or recommended, and then there's kind of more of a management or an incremental change after that. And for people who go into fractional, very often that's not what they love doing, right? They love making transformational change, and there's only so much transformational change you can make, and at some point it becomes counterproductive. So you want to get them to that level, transition them to a full-time solution, and then move on to the next client that they can make transformational change with, whether that takes 6 months, 18 months, or 2 years. So that's typically, and it's a different skill set, right? The different skill set of coming in and making transformational change and then kind of managing an organization over a longer term. There's not necessarily the same person that's going to love doing and be great at both of those things. Sometimes you find that you luck out and you find that person, but it's not always the same person. So having a fractional person allows you to kind of do that and then transition over to the person who wants, and has the capacity to do well on a long-term basis. That kind of incremental improvement, incremental and long-term management, more stable management. And when you hit that plateau, and obviously not plateau, you continue growing, and you continue improving all the time. Once in a while you luck out, somebody, they just love you so much. They just fall so much in love with you. You fall so much in love with them. And people do, turn away from the fractional life. Sometimes that definitely does happen. I've heard of it happening. But if you kind of go into it kind of banking on that being the ending, it's not really something you could bank on. I would say that.
So Elise sends her Purple Heart love, and she says, "Hey, Ben," she said, "Jen thrives with chaos. Once our firm is all neat and tidy, it won't be fun anymore." And
right.
That sounds like Elise, and it sounds like a lot of us. One of the things you just said, instead of get it, want it, have the capacity, you said love it.
It's that which you love doing and are great at. We talked about who, not how, the Dan Sullivan language. So another thing he talks a lot about is unique ability. Yeah. Which is what the nexus between what you love doing and you're great at. So that's kind of the whole point of having a fractional leader is that hopefully or a fractional COO in this case, is that piece of managing people and all the follow through and everything. That's what they love doing and they're great at. So you allow them to do what's in their unique ability so that you could focus on what you as the firm owner is in your unique ability. So again, maybe you love the business development, you love talking to new clients, or maybe you love running the cases or doing the big trials or whatever it is. Like you have whatever it is that you love doing and are great at, whether it's more the technician piece, more the sales piece, whatever it happens to be, more the visionary piece, maybe being a thought leader in your field and being a big speaker, whatever it is that you love doing and are great at, whatever's your unique ability, that's where you're going to add the most value to the firm. And by bringing in a fractional COO or fractional integrator or any other kind of fractional executive allows you to say, okay, you know what, you take ownership on your shoulders of the marketing of this firm, and collaborating with all the other members of the leadership team as part of the team, just on a fractional basis, or doing that with finance, or doing that with sales or technology or people operations or whatnot. And then you as the firm owner can focus on your unique ability, what you're great at. And that does tie into Tyson's question also, which is that making transformational change is the happy place. That's the unique ability. That's what many fractional leaders, fractional integrators love doing and are great at. And then, kind of managing a stable organization and managing incremental change is not their happy place. It's not what they love doing and are great at. So they're going to move on to an organization where they're great at that. And they could bring in that long-term, that maybe more stable, long-term, more follow-through oriented, less on the, transformational change piece, long-term integrator, whether that's, again, somebody you're elevating from inside, or whether that's somebody that we can help you find as an external hire and then help you transition over to. And that's going to be somebody who that's their happy place. That's what they love and are great at. So fractional, full-time, you as a firm owner is just, it's kind of a network of different roles and always trying to be maximally adaptable and agile to pick the right people to do the right things, where everybody could be in their unique ability, where they're going to be much more effective than just kind of forcing yourself or forcing other people to do things that's not really within their unique ability.
Running your own practice can be scary, whether you're worried about where the next case will come from, feeling like you're losing control over your growing firm, or frustrated from being out of touch with everyone working under your license. The stress can be overwhelming. We will show you how to turn that fear into a driving force of clarity, focus, stability, and confidence that eliminates the roller coaster of guilt-ridden second-guessing and mistake-making to get you off that hamster wheel for good.
Maximum Lawyer in Minimum Time is a step-by-step playbook that shows you how to identify what your firm needs and how to proactively get it at every stage of the game, so you're prepped and excited for the inevitable growth that will follow. Name the lifestyle that you want, and we'll show you how to become a Maximum Lawyer in minimum time. Find out more by going to MaximumLawyer.com/course.
So Ben, a lot of the members, they actually go through EOS and they use EOS, and Jim uses EOS. I've read the books. We use Scaling Up, and I know a few other members use Scaling Up. They're very similar methodologies. Yeah. But let's say you were to take on a fractional COO, an integrator. What's that process like to, for lack of a better term, integrate them into your processes and do the whole, let's use the EOS as an example, doing the whole process of doling out who does what.
Right. Well, I'll just describe briefly a picture of what it looks like in my firm. Obviously, every firm or solo practitioner might do it a little differently, but typically, we have a sales process, but starting after that, right? So when we start to get going, we'll have the fractional integrator or the fractional COO will typically spend a day with you. Now that could be virtual or, it could be in person. Very often we like, whenever possible, to do it in person, but spend the day together with you. That's spending real time with all the members of your leadership team, having a discovery day, basically learning. Tell me about your job. Tell me how things work at this firm. Tell me what you think is working, what's not working, and kind of getting everybody's perspective and learning and kind of absorbing an overall picture of what's going on, what the issues and opportunities are. And then at the end of that day, getting together with the visionary or the firm owner, the business owner, and kind of also, getting clear on what does success look like? I mean, we talk about this in the sales process also and kind of get clear on some of those things, but what does success look like? What does the success for this engagement look like? What do things need to look like 6 months or 12 months from now in order for you to feel like this engagement was a success, or that your business is where you want it to be at that point? And then when you can kind of discuss and negotiate what that looks like and what's realistic and what's feasible, the conversations with the other team members may give the person a perspective that the business owner, even though they are full-time and have been there for years with everybody from day one, don't actually have. And they don't actually realize what's going on fully, at least, or at least in certain areas. Obviously, in some areas, a fractional will never, unless even if they were there full-time for a year, they wouldn't understand certain things as well as you guys internally. But we, after that learning, get clear with you what kind of communication method works for you. Well, you mentioned Strategic Coach, Jim, right? So you have the communication builder. I don't know if you've seen that tool that they have, which is kind of, do you like to be communicated with verbally? Do you like to get it by email? Do you like text messages? Do you like voice notes? Is it the morning is better? The evening is better, right? Everybody has their own way that they best like to receive information and the best way that they like to give information. Do you like to receive information with lots of detail, or just give me the bottom line, right? Everybody has their own communication style. So get clear on what the right communication style is with you. And then what we do is we set up a cadence for working together. So there'll be a leadership team meeting every week. We typically like to have brief check-ins or depending on the intensity of the engagement, possibly more than brief check-ins, but at least brief check-ins with every leadership team member, preferably a number of hours before at least that leadership team meeting, so that we can touch base on, hey, what are your to-dos for this week? What are your metrics for this week? What are your milestones that are coming up on your rocks, on your major projects? What are they? To kind of reconnect, because people get so busy, right? And with client work, with whatever it is that they're doing, they get so busy with the day-to-day, get so busy with the fires that always need to come up and need to be put out, that it's very hard to step back and work on those things that are important for the firm to get where you want it to get to, but not as urgent as some of those fires or some of the emergencies that come up day to day. So kind of refocus on those one-on-one meetings, back to the stuff that they're working on that's important but not urgent. The measurables, the milestones towards the major quarterly rocks, towards whatever's working, what's not working. Meeting every week, typically with the firm owner, right? To kind of get them caught up with everything you're learning from everybody else and see what's on their mind, and kind of compartmentalize all the stuff that's on their mind and all the stuff that they're worried about and whatever's annoying them, and kind of compartmentalize that into wherever each thing belongs. And then hopefully we're able to work out among the leadership team a lot of stuff so that it could be resolved below the leadership team level, work out a bunch of stuff with the firm owner, with the visionary below the leadership team level, and then really maximize that time that the leadership team spends together making decisions and addressing issues that are the best use of their time, the most effective use of their time. Depending on the intensity of an engagement, they're also maybe working on the fractional COO, fractional integrator, maybe coming in and working on a major project or a rock on their own. Maybe they're getting a major process. Maybe they're getting one of the core processes of the business documented. So they're working with team members and getting some major process documented and figuring out what measurables to connect to that documented process, how to get that process trained, and kind of work on the rollout of that process and how we make sure we're quality controlling afterwards and getting it trained and whatever, just kind of working on the rollout of a major process. Maybe that's one example of a quarterly rock. Or maybe there's a new workflow, a new CRM that you guys are rolling out, or you want to roll out to start managing your workflows and your sales process. So kind of maybe work on managing that, not doing all the detailed work, but maybe managing the outside vendor that's doing that, managing the inside people that are working on that, and just kind of taking over ownership of making sure it gets done and gets done right, so that it's not just one more thing that's on the owners of the firm's head that nobody else really has the responsibility or capacity to think about. So kind of get that off of their head as being the only one who's responsible for it. So that's, kind of maybe take on a rock or like a big project, meet with the leadership team, meet with them individually, meet with them as a leadership team, meet with the firm owner. It's a little bit of kind of painting a picture of what it looks like on a week-to-week basis. And then ultimately what we do, like I hinted at earlier, is that we try to signal the end of the engagement when we kind of make the transformational change that we can make whenever they are ready for that full-time solution, for that full-time integrator or COO, or maybe when it's ready for somebody internally, hey, that is the right person. We can elevate them, help mentor and coach that person up into the integrator role. I had one former client of mine that I was with for almost 2 years, an ad tech firm, where I was the fractional COO. And after 2 years of working with them, we realized that they're head of product, right? Because they were a tech company. So their head of product would be a great integrator. So I helped work with him, kind of coach and manage him, and then help him with the transition of him into the integrator role. So he kind of, we kind of helped him how to do even more delegation than what he was already doing in the product department, so that he could free up more time. Help teach him and mentor him on what it looks like to be a great integrator. I mean, obviously he had great natural skills in that, but help give him some more management and mentoring in that. And then did a 1 month transition process, and then transitioned him over, and it's going great now, where he stepped back a little bit from some of his day-to-day roles and got stronger managers in his product team, and then was able to take over more time kind of managing the whole business and managing the other leadership team members. I could certainly imagine maybe senior attorneys or partners or senior associates that, could be in a firm that might have the capacity, if they're, so inclined, if they're great at and love managing people, then, they love getting things done through other people, not just getting things done personally. They could potentially be be good potential integrators for potential elevation to that role, if that's what they aspire to do.
Tyson asked me, Ben, right as we got started, what I was doing today. And what I was doing was we were redoing our accountability chart, and included in there, we're going to be starting to work with a fractional CFO. So I'm wondering, what advice do you have for me and my current leadership team as we sort of incorporate them into a leadership board that's been running things on our own and in EOS for about 2 years?
Well, one is I would want to ensure that you guys involve the fractional CFO in your leadership team meetings. So they're going to be in your L10s. Okay, awesome. This is one thing, because again, like as you probably know, like if this stuff that happens in the marketing seat that affects finance, the stuff that happens in operations or legal services that affects the finance seat, the stuff that happens in finance, and other people need to hear it. Like everything that everybody does, if they're working towards the greater good of the firm, everything's going to affect everybody else. So if they're excluded from that, obviously that would not be utilizing them to their fullest. So that's great to hear. I guess I would just say to make sure you're clear with yourself what success looks like, and then communicate that to the CFO before they come in or while they're there, so that, right, because one of the biggest frustrations for any kind of, I mean, it applies to full-time employees too, but certainly I've seen it in the fractional executive space. One of the biggest problems and reasons why engagements fail is because of unexpressed or unclear expectations on either side. So if you're not, if you expect certain things, if you expect them to kind of manage all your bookkeeping team, and you shouldn't have to talk to the bookkeepers anymore, and then but you don't make sure that's explicit. Like maybe they assume you're just looking more for advice, and just kind of someone hands them the numbers once a month and they kind of look it over, tell you their analysis, and that's it. They're not actually managing the finance team. Or what's their involvement with billing? What's their involvement with billing review before bills go out to clients? Because I'm sure all the attorneys want to review their bills, right? So you just have to make sure what's the intersection between operations and finance? What are you expecting from them? Are you expecting them to manage financial operations? I mean, I don't know the answers to any of these things with you, but just make sure that you're clear with what you're expecting. Like if you would be kind of disappointed if the engagement didn't have X, Y, and Z, well, make sure you tell them that that's what you're expecting, and that's what you see as a successful engagement. Because when you don't say it, you just assume, oh, of course that's part of it. Of course you're making an assumption. Of course this should be part of it. And they might be making an assumption, well, of course that's not part of it, right? And then, you have dashed expectations on your part, and they get frustrated with you, you get frustrated with them. Hopefully you can work it out if you could just communicate openly and honestly. But the best thing is obviously communicate it before you even get started. Make sure you're on the same page. And sometimes you might have an expectation. They say, well, that's not exactly what I do. And then you could negotiate. You could just talk it through. Hey, maybe I'm not right for you, or maybe I could do that. But okay, great. Now let's just kind of renegotiate things. And maybe I need more hours if you expect this. But you can kind of rediscuss it at whatever point you bring it up. But just make sure whatever's in your head that you would be kind of miffed if they weren't doing it, or if they started doing it, you'd be kind of miffed if they did that. Just be clear within your own head what those things are. And then make sure to say them out loud, and then discuss it through together, because just kind of dashed expectations and kind of when you don't state something and you assume one thing, they assume something else, it's just that's the biggest reason I think why engagements are gonna fail. Also, once it starts, I would just say lack of communication is another reason why it might not succeed. Primarily, this would be on them, which is that they should be actively communicating with you so you know what's going on. So you know what's going on with them, you know what they're working on, you know what their priorities are, you know what they're seeing, and also again just that you communicate with them about what's bothering you or what you're seeing, so that there's just full communication on both sides. I would say, because when you stop communicating or if you stop meeting regularly, they end up just going off in different directions and starting getting siloed, and you're going to end up making assumptions that they're not doing the things that they should be doing, which might be right or they might not be, but you don't know if you're not talking regularly.
I do want to ask, if you don't mind, and I don't think Elise would mind because she's the one that recommended you, but I want to see if you could share some more details as to what Elise has got going on, because we all love Elise. She's a force to be reckoned with. So just want to hear a little bit more about the details as to what she has going on.
Well, I'll try to share what I can.
Without violating any
Anything too
confidence.
private.
Yeah.
The Elise is, from my conversations with her, from everything Jen, who's the fractional integrator, working with her, has been telling me, Elise is, and this is a great quality. I mean, she's getting so much more, so much faster results from her work with Jen because of the qualities that Elise has, which is that she is humble. She is looking to grow. She wants to learn and listen from her team members, from Jen, and she, it's just, she's not fighting every potential change or every, I'm not saying, some clients are like that, they're kind of fighting everything. And you come, and it's true. I want to make sure to say this is that we're coming in as a fractional executive. We don't know your business, whatever form of law you practice or law in general. We don't know your team. We don't, at the leadership level or below that, we don't know your customers. We don't know your product. We don't know your field. And we come in knowing that we don't know those things, and that's fine, right? Because what we do know and what we are good at is managing people, managing accountability, how to manage projects and leadership teams and vision and align vision with what people are doing and set up measurables and accountability and make decisions and then get those decisions executed on. Right? That's the stuff that we're good at. So what we do is we come in and we channel your knowledge, right? Because you guys are the experts in your people, in your product, in your customers, your clients. You guys are the experts in those things. So we kind of learn about those things at a high level, don't need to get into all the detail. And then without making our own judgments, we just assume that you're right, basically. I mean, we might ask probing questions because maybe you're not sometimes, but we don't know that. We just only find out through probing questions and then help you get to clarity about what's right and channel your knowledge, channel the wisdom in your leadership team and the wisdom in you into the skills and management that we have to actually get stuff done instead of hitting yourself against the same ceiling and feeling like you're hitting your head against the same wall again and again. So when it comes to Elise in the work with her firm, Jen is coming in, working with Elise, meeting every week, working with her leadership team and helping them get clarity around what is the right accountability chart for them. What is the right structure for their firm that's going to get them where they want to get to? What's going to be the right structure that gives all of the members of the team a great feeling of having a path forward, of doing what they're great at, of being in a great culture, even in a remote firm like hers is. And so figuring out and channeling all that knowledge into a way that's executable and helping to be that kind of outside voice. Right, because sometimes you're just with the same people all the time, and they say a fish can't see water, right? Because it's all around them. We can't see air because it's all around us. So similarly, in your firm, a lot of stuff goes on, and you just stop seeing it because you're always in it. You're swimming in it, so you don't see it like a fish doesn't see water. So having that outsider come in and they can ask a lot of questions, and they'll see things that you just stopped seeing or never saw because it just kind of slowly developed like the frog, the water boils slowly. You just got used to it. So even though it's a lot of pain, you don't see that that's anything not normal about that. So they, as an outsider, help you see those things that aren't normal or that are counterproductive and help you get back to clarity again and effectuate effective change so you can actually get the firm to be how you want it to be more in line with the vision that you have in your head that maybe existed, and that's why you started this firm. But you can't figure out how to practically get. You know what Z looks like, and you're at A, but you can't figure out how to actually navigate what actually is B and what's C and what's D that will get us to Z. So kind of what we help you do is, we find out from you what Z is, right? What's that destination that you're typing into the GPS? And then we help you be that kind of Waze or that GPS that kind of tells you, okay, based on that destination and based on what you're telling me about where you are now, your GPS location, I can say, okay, this is your next turn and your next turn and your next turn. And we'll kind of work with you to kind of repeat that process, rinse and repeat every quarter. What are your next few moves that's going to get us or that's going to get you towards where you want it to be? I don't know. I was kind of going around the answer. I'm not sure. Did that help?
It was absolutely. Yeah. It was great. And we're about to wrap up. I'm going to tell people a little story about you really quick about the beginning. This is how prepared Ben was. So Ben, based on the topic, changed his background sign. Just like that sign, he actually unscrewed it and changed it just for this. So it was so great. I've never seen it before. It was so great. But Ben, let's wrap things up. Tell people if they want to work with you, how to get in touch with you. Go.
Well, if you're looking for a fractional integrator, if you think that might be something you could use, myself or one of the members of my leadership team are happy to have a conversation. wolfsedgeintegrators.com. That's wolfsedgeintegrators.com. Wolfs, that's with an S. wolfsedgeintegrators.com. You can reach out to us, find out more information there. Obviously, you can reach out to us through the site, and we'll be happy to have a conversation. We do a discovery call. We kind of actually send you a summary email to kind of reflect back to you what we've heard, like where you want to get to, what things want to look like, what the issues are, why it's important, to make sure we understand the context correctly. We circle back internally to think, hey, who's the right team member that might be good for this? What's the right solution, or what are the right options that might get you to those goals that you've articulated? And then we have a second call where we kind of go over our proposal together and see if there's something that makes sense or not. But we're happy to go through that discovery and exploration process together. wolfsedgeintegrators.com.
Love it. Thank you so much. It's been great. Very informational. Have a great day, Ben. Really appreciate you.
Thanks. Great to meet you. Thank you.
See you, Ben. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your host and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.